everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the JSN Podcast. Today, unfortunately, Jay will not be joining us. Schoolwork and a lot of various academic stuff is taking up a lot of his time. But fortunately, we still do have Nico here.
How
Say hi.
dare he? How dare he?
Yeah, no. But I mean, I'm sure
Some
y'all
people.
understand too. Things are a little crazy right now, and but he will definitely be back here for next week's episode, which we're doing on Tiger King, which is exciting. I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of y'all are watching it. But this week, as we said, we're gonna be talking about Childish Gambino's new album, 3/15/20, referencing the day on which it was dropped, March 15th. So being a very recently released record and by Childish Gambino, and this was dropped like without any context, right? Like he sort of just dropped it, I think, on Apple Music, and then
Um, yeah, no, he dropped it. So like on 3/15/20,
mhm.
he dropped it on his website,
Oh,
and then
I
it
gotcha.
it was like playing on a loop, and then it disappeared. And a little less than a week later is when he dropped out of nowhere on Spotify and Apple Music.
Interesting. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, so not like no hype or any build up for this record on Gambino's end. So it
But it's
was.
not.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say it's really weird though because people have been waiting for a new record from Gambino for about 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 4 years,
Yeah.
maybe a little less than since "Awaken My Love" came out,
Mm-hmm.
and people have been really eagerly anticipating it because he said in 2018 when he was one of the best years for his career with "This Is America" and the second season of Atlanta. He said he was going to be releasing a new album at the end of that year, which everyone eagerly was waiting for, and then it kind of passed, and nobody heard anything about it, and n- nobody heard anything for a little over a year, and then this comes out of nowhere, and people are and Gambino fans are on it are fairly enough like going crazy about it, so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I agree. It is very exciting. I am frankly, I guess you could say relatively new Gambino fan. I only very much got into his music and like gave his old records a listen after This Is America came out. Because obviously that song was such a huge like hit, and I very much enjoyed it. Um, and so then I went back and listened to Because the Internet and Awaken My Love, and so I'm really excited to talk about this record today, because I feel that, as we were talking a little bit before, that this record sort of takes a lot of like interesting aspects and like some themes from his previous records and sort of drops them here and there, and like it combines to make sort of this sort of strange, interesting piece. So, what are your like first
Yeah,
impressions? What your very first thoughts that come to your mind when you describe this record?
I don't know. It feels like sort of this balance between it feels like if you took Because the Internet, put some of the more like soul vibes that came from Awaken My Love,
Mm-hmm.
which was a total soul album. Like it
Oh,
was
for
a
sure.
complete departure from anything he'd done before.
Yeah.
So this seems like more of a return to form to something like Because the Internet, but he's taking what he learned in the meantime and injecting it back in to tell a story about our modern world and technology and the its role within it. Um, in my opinion, I know we're gonna have differing opinions, but I think it is to a weaker effect than he would have hoped.
Mm-hmm. I think I can generally agree with that. Like this album doesn't hold up to his previous
Mm,
projects. Um,
mm.
I
It's better
definitely.
than Camp though.
Oh yeah. Oh, I don't know.
Camp.
Yeah.
Did you ever listen to Camp?
Yeah, I listened to a little bit of it
Mm.
with like over this past like week or two, since when I was like really catching up with all the Gambino that I haven't gotten a chance to, and Camp was just like sort of weird. Like it felt sort of unfinished and it felt immature, So like
Yeah,
I
people hate Camp. People hate Camp so much. Like Bonfire's great. It's it's got like a couple great singles on it, but overall, people hate it.
I
I
get that.
think Pitchfork gave it a 1.7.
Wow, 1.7
Yeah,
out of 5 or
it
10.
out of 10.
Wow.
It doesn't
Wow.
deserve to be that low in my book, but it's not a great album by any means.
Yeah, I understandable. So like yeah, so I mean obviously I haven't gotten the chance to listen to like all the way through that, so I don't really know how I'd compare that to 315, but
Hmm.
compared to for example like Because the Internet or like Awaken My Love, I feel like this record is a little more scrambled and doesn't really have as strong of a direction, if that
Mm.
makes sense. I think both of those records, well, I think what part of what makes Gambino stand out amongst his peers in the rap industry is his precision and ability to pursue a message, and even like a very interesting, distinct sort of like kooky message within his music. So like in Awaken My
Really?
Love, for example, um, sorry, I misspoke. In Because the Internet, are you aware that like Because the Internet came with a like 70-page screenplay?
I
Like
heard something about that, but I've never read it.
yeah, so
So
I took the time to like skim over that screenplay, and so pretty much that entire album is designed to be this sort of like a soundtrack to a movie that would be based off this screenplay he wrote. And so like
interesting.
and so it like and so once you listen to the songs again under that lens, you find that like the songs point towards like a very interesting different message than one would get just by like listening to the music straight. And it was one that was like much more
Yeah.
interesting and like more of a commentary about like individual people and like how their characteristics change due to their environments and how like luck plays such a big aspect into what makes people who they are. And like that's like a very interesting, non-conventional message. And I feel like Gambino does really well
Mhm.
conveying these non-conventional, untypical messages in his music, right? We have other great artists like J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, who are able to convey messages very powerfully in their music, but they're messages that like are very like fundamentally, like they're messages that are pretty simple to understand and pretty I
No,
don't.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you. Kendrick is a great storyteller.
Oh,
Don't knock
absolutely.
him. I I get what you're going for. I wouldn't really say that's like Gambino's like I don't know. It's not. I feel like it's not that he's like this. Not that he's telling like much more complex stories, but I feel like he's just doing it in a very interesting way that
Mm-hmm.
not a lot of
Yeah.
artists are going for. I feel like you take someone like Kendrick
Mm-hmm.
or Kanye,
Mm-hmm.
and what they try to do is I feel like they try really hard to kind of like refine their sound.
For sure.
They'll adapt, they'll try new things,
Mm-hmm.
but they're trying really hard to refine it and to tell and they'll revisit themes from previous albums to try and like get it better.
For
But what I
sure.
feel that Gambino does that makes him unique is even if it doesn't always work to the greatest effect,
Mm-hmm.
he'll from one album to the next, he'll totally just change directions, change the
Absolutely.
entire sort of sound he wants, and just like give it his all.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's not always perfect,
Yeah.
but he just throws himself at it and just tries to do something completely new, completely unique, and just tell stories in like a new, interesting way that not many people else are doing.
I
And
agree.
that's why I think even though his music isn't as critically acclaimed as someone like Kendrick's,
Mm-hmm.
we still hear him talked about so much because his music is always really interesting and people get really excited
Absolutely.
to
Yeah.
hear new things from him.
Absolutely. And so like I like in the same vein of like what you're talking about how he always he always tries something new, right? Always tries to
Mhm.
be innovative and like do something interesting. And so I think in my opinion, I think that sort of I think he got a little bit ahead of himself on this album. So I guess
Totally.
we can sort of like get into really getting into the nitty-gritty of this record. And so I think we both understand like the basic idea of him going for this sort of like technological dystopian sort of like like
Mhm.
sort of a little bit of like a twisted haunting vibe with this record, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so what do you so are I want to ask you like what do you think about that vibe? And like so what are some like what is like a song or two that you want to point out that like you feel really encapsulated like what this album meant for you.
Well, real quickly, I just want to mention part. I feel like part of the story of this album, along with what you were saying about like technology and kind
Mm-hmm.
of like fears of the modern world and where we're going. We get hints of this at the end. I forget which. It's also really hard to talk about this album because all
Mm-hmm.
the titles of the songs are numbers,
Yeah, so
so it's hard.
let's just refer to them by like
Mhm.
the first like set of numbers. So if it's like
Yeah,
so we'll call it like 12 and 19 and 24 for any
yeah.
numbered songs,
Mhm.
okay?
I think it's 47.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the song, you it's a conversation between him and
This little
his
girl.
kid.
Oh, his
Yeah,
daughter.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And so part of the story of the album is he's afraid of like he's afraid of the world for him right now, but he's also afraid of the future for his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really powerful piece of this album. I don't think it's in the album enough though. I think it's a little it leans a little too much into the it's too much talking about the technology and the fear early on, and I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really like
Link it.
focus in enough on like that element of I'm afraid for the world I'm gonna leave for my kid
Mm-hmm.
until that moment in that song.
Yeah, like
Um,
I completely agree with you. I think the what you're looking for is like it doesn't extend the theme a lot. You know what I mean? It
mhm,
doesn't take it and then like explain why it matters or like explain the impact it's gonna have on him on the people close to him, right? Like he sort of just like says
yeah,
like, "Whoa, this is bad," but like he never
mhm.
really goes into like what does that mean, right?
Yeah, yeah. I also feel like in a lot there are a couple songs where he kind of retreads ground, uh,
Mm-hmm.
there's a number of songs that deal with his fear of like technology. I mean, there's algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
There's oh man, I'm trying to remember,
Yeah, take your time.
but it's just really hard because I'm looking at the sound at the song list and it's all just numbers and like. But there's a lot of retreading that the themes of technology, and I feel like there's a lot of retreading of themes of like of time. I know this one. I know like oh, time and feels like summer. They both kind of get at the same idea um of the fear of like the inevitability of time.
Mm-hmm.
So
For
I don't
sure.
know. It just kind of like it kind of works against like making it feel deep.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it feel a little shallower. How he's like he keeps on treading the same water.
I agree, and like it I think a lot of parts it gets like sort of like weirdly like fake deep for me,
Yeah.
where it's like it feels like it's trying to like tell this big grandiose message, but like it's really again not extending it or like not really talking about it in a way that matters. It's like you said, it's where it's like, oh yeah, like time is inevitable, isn't it? Like that's
Mhm.
it's like a conversation you'd have when you're high, where it's like, bro, that's like crazy that like time will like never stop, and like that it's like you know what I mean. But then like there's not really any meaning there. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
no, I hear you.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he writes all most of his songs.
Oh well,
I
I mean I feel like that really comes out in this record, and so
yeah.
um I think I definitely agree with you, and there are some songs that I kind of
Mhm.
do like the complexity in them, like for example the in 39 where it's like this pseudo acapella song where
Mhm.
I just has like a few piano numbers here and there, but it's mostly just like you hear his straight voice just like talking about these with these very interesting vocal inflections,
Mhm.
talking about these sort of like general themes about like sort of meaningless and like
Mhm.
finding a reason with life, like why go to the party, this like sort of you know I like question of existence, like do things really
Yeah.
matter, and like I feel like that's like sort of and in that song that's 39, and in when he gets to like 42 and feels like summer, like that's when we start getting these songs where I think he starts grabbing that idea of extending a little bit more, but I just wish
Mhm.
he'd done it earlier, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear you totally.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have a question. Do you have any like songs that you think like stand out, like that like you think he did well in this record They can be like from a technical perspective or from like a lyrical perspective.
Ooh. 12. I'll list off a few I really like. I
Mm-hmm.
like 12,
Mm-hmm.
1238, which it says here features Ink,
Mm-hmm.
uh Catch Bonnet, I think that's how
Yeah.
you say it, and 21 Savage.
Yeah.
I think that one, I really like the lyrics to that one, but that it might be my favorite of the album. I
Mm-hmm.
just really love the lyrics of it, and I love the sound and the beat,
For
and
sure.
it's
And I
something I could totally just put on and listen to and vibe with some friends. Which I want to mention. I feel like that's another thing that's about this album is there are a lot of songs I really like that have good melodies and good beats,
mm-hmm.
but there are some songs uh like Algorithm, the one where it's like why go to the party, and I just feel like there's a bit too much like distortion in him trying to be weird. That's like it's interesting in the album, but I feel like I can't really put that on and listen to with some friends, like when just hanging out. But songs like
Absolutely.
1238, like I can listen to it and really enjoy it, but then I can also kind of just vibe with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was actually like, it's really great that you bring up the distortion because that's kind of one of my issues with this record.
Mhm.
And sort of in the same vein that you're talking about like an important part about making music like this is that yes, you should totally be creative and like be innovative and do like weird, interesting things, but like it has to be something that like in my opinion, I think part of like the artistry that goes into making a great record is making something that sounds great too, right?
Mm.
And there are some songs that are like very harsh on my ears. So like, um, for example, I'm trying to 32. I felt a lot of parts of it were like very strange, cryptic, and like a lot of like the bass was very muddy and like a lot of this distortion, harsh to listen to on the ears. And
Mm.
I feel like Algorithm sort of has this like same syndrome where it's like this very muddy instrumental, strange mixing to make it unclear, right? Like you can never play that out loud without like struggling to understand it. And like I agree with you that like it sort of it sets a nice tone, I guess, for like the record, but like it
Mhm.
it's sort of like that's all it's really good for. You know what I mean? And I feel like the outro should have done that.
Yeah.
Instead of having like an entire sort of weird song dedicated to setting the tone. Or sorry, the intro rather. Um
I hate the vocals of Algorithm so much.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but 32, I hear what you're saying about that one. I kind of vibe with 32, not gonna lie.
Mhm.
It's just like it's very I've heard it described as tribal. There's just something about it I really like, but
Mhm.
I don't feel like it's something I would put on when I'm with people.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just kind of there's something odd about. 35 also is another one that's kind of weird, but that's a I kind of vibe with
I yeah,
35.
I actually like 35 a lot. I don't really know like what is like so interesting about it. I just like I kind of like how it feels out of place. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like all of a sudden we go from this very techy, like rhythmic electronic sort of instrumentals to a pure like string guitar type like ukulele type instrumental and just like a nice little country folk a campfire type song like in the middle of this like sandwiched in this huge record. And like
mm,
I don't know, I kind of just like it sort of like he sort of just broke the mold. He was just like
yeah.
and like I find it funny almost that like that song breaks the mold in so many ways, but the lyrical like the meaning behind the lyrics still stays consistent,
Yeah.
right? Like he
What did you interpret as the meaning behind the lyrics?
so for yeah, so I actually want to talk about that because I don't really know like what I think. It's like I don't really
Mm,
know what the whole like Bigfoot Littlefoot thing meant.
mhm,
Like I'm not really
yeah.
sure what I get from that, so I'm curious to know like what did you think that meant, or like what do you think that's reflective of?
Yeah, it's really cryptic. I I didn't get this myself. I forget where I found this. It might have
Hmm.
been from the Forbes article about the album, but from what I've heard, the meaning of the lyrics is about like the lowest member in like a gang, like a drug dealer on the street. So it's like Littlefoot,
Interesting.
Bigfoot, get out of the way. So the Littlefoot is like the little guy who's like running the drugs out on the street, who's
Mm-hmm.
like trying to make a name for himself, but it's just this little fish. And then Bigfoot is kind of like the the upper echelon of the gang. And it's sort of about how the Littlefoot will just kind of like it with like the tone of the song, it's very naive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, I can make a name for myself. I can make it like if I work hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
And the meaning of the song is kind of like how this person's so naive, and it's like, well, sadly, like
Mm-hmm.
it's a
Yeah.
it's a gang. That's not how gangs work. Things aren't gonna work out. But I think this moment of oh, what's the word? Oh man, wait, I'm thinking back to AP Lit terms. Uh, dramatic irony. This
Mm-hmm.
dramatic irony, uh, I think, serves as a fantastic break in the album and is definitely one of the highlights of the album.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And like, I'm looking back at the lyrics right now as you were talking about that, and I actually totally see like this vibe. It's like, talking about like, I'm gonna show y'all how to move this, like, continuing this like sort of theme about sort of ambition, right? Like,
Hmm.
having this like strive to like, it sort of like cuts out, like it sort of breaks away again from this mold of like this sort of darker, sort of pessimistic, like pseudo pessimistic look, and then
Hmm.
instead cuts in with like this young, ambitious, high energy song, and like, um what's it called? So like again, I find it very interesting what it does, and I agree that it's very it's a highlight, especially with like you said, with the dramatic irony, contrasting the rest of the record, not just in terms of like emotional direction, but also in terms of like instrumental composition. And then
Totally.
I find it even more interesting that it's followed up directly with 39 again, like how we talked about earlier about it being like this very cold, like again pseudo acapella song. Like it gave me like are you familiar with Bill Wirtz, the YouTuber?
Yes.
Yeah, so like it gave me a lot of Bill Wirtz vibes, where it was like it was just very blunt, very direct, very like cold about its message, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
having that right after this, like, this climbing, like high energy ambitious song, and then just being like, why go to the party, right? Like just cut all of that energy out, back to like this, directly contrasting back to this dark, drab, pessimistic look, you know what I mean? And like
Hmm.
I think that again, like I think this latter half of this album, this like last third, is where we really start getting like he starts solidifying the theme, and like really getting a little focused. But again, I think it was just too late, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
um
I think definitely the back end of this album is where it really shines.
yeah, and
Um,
it's just
with the except
unfortunate. Yeah, go ahead.
with the exception of the 12.
Yeah. But so I want to ask, what is your opinion on 53, the last song on this record?
Hold up, let me give it a quick. I'm just gonna skim through it real
No
quick.
problem. This So I guess I can start off with my opinions. I'm kind
Yeah.
of confused by this song. I do like how it sounds. But I do enjoy like the high energy vocals that he goes for, but like I think it sounds a little like kind of psychotic. You know what I mean? Like it sounds like it's like at this
Hmm.
point, like this whole I feel like he sort of lost this message, or like he sort of like dropped the ball a little bit on this like controlling theme of like pessimism and like darkness and almost hopelessness, with this like
Well,
sort of go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. You finish.
Yeah, because like I feel like it's just like at the end it's just like he's going for this like psychotic person, like these constant high energy, these wild up and down vocal inflections, going for this almost like this person who like snapped because of these dark thoughts, you know what I mean? And so I
Hmm.
felt like it was like a little bit of like a weird and slightly unsatisfying ending for me, but I want to know what you think.
I don't think it's as strong as Stand Tall though.
Oh my God, Stand Tall is a beautiful
Stand
song.
Tall is fantastic. I
Yeah.
don't know. I get what you're saying. It's very chaotic.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, like I think this song would have done, like I think a song here would have done best if it left off on like a somber tone, like the like zero zero, like the very first, the intro song of this record, I felt was like kind of weird as being the first song on this album. I felt like Algorithm would
Yeah.
have done better. I feel like zero 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 would have done better as like the ending song to this album, like leaving us on this like sort of confused, sort of existential, like surreal tone, leaving the record, because like that's like sort of that sort of would have contrasted so well from this like
Mhm.
very dark, hard throbbing song that we get at the very beginning, and would have like sort of showed a progression. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, no, I hear exactly what you're saying. I think it would be a great outro song.
Mm-hmm.
But uh,
Go ahead.
I just want to ask you. I want to break away a little bit about from talking about the songs, unless there's any song that you really want to talk about.
No, not necessarily. I mean, I
Mhm.
wanted to ask your
Yeah.
opinion on Time, but what's it called?
Eh,
Like, just eh.
eh,
I get that. Pretty much
eh.
same. Like, I don't know why the Ariana Grande feature was like so hyped up. Like, people like enjoyed it so much. I thought it was just like just fine.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I did like the retro style production though on it. I
Yeah.
overall in this album, like, I one of the small issues I have with it is like the production is so hit or miss. Like on some songs it's incredible,
Oh,
and on some songs it's garbage, and I don't get it. Like, yeah,
mhm.
but
Yeah, it's
what were you gonna
weird.
ask?
I was gonna ask if we can kind of switch the conversation to sort of the more conceptual elements of the
Oh,
album, and
for
by
sure.
that, I'm like, I wanna ask you, what do you think is the reason that he titled the songs by their starting time in the album, and then why Algorithm and Time don't follow this convention?
Um, so I think that um, I don't know. I think that the idea of this like again, I think naming them by times was sort of a move to sort of, I think it was like one of those like pseudo fake deep moments, right? Where it's just sort of like a little on the nose, where it's like, get it, like, this is the start time of the song, and it goes in with this theme of time and about things having a start and an end, because these
Hmm.
songs names are based off when they start and when they end and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I think it would have been more interesting if we got like if the first and last songs were named like that, because again, like, I it would have created a progression. And then I think Time and Algorithm not following this name convention makes it feel even like less like there was like an actual like deeper meaning to it, and instead felt like to me where he was sort of just like, um these songs should set the stage for the themes, and the rest of these songs build on the theme, and I felt like it was just a little too on the
Hmm.
nose and like obvious and upfront about it. Like even a song that he previously released under the title "Feels Like Summer," he renamed, and that was 47, I think, in the song list. Um,
Yeah, yeah. He actually released a different version of Algorithm earlier also.
he did. Interesting.
Yeah.
I was unaware of
He
this.
he gave as like a download to people who attended his This Is America concert, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
okay. Very nice.
But it was just a demo version of it at that point, but it did have the name Algorithm. What's interesting to know is that when when these songs originally dropped on DonaldGloverPresents.com, on March 15th, 2020, which is what the album's named after,
Mm-hmm.
it was running on a continuous loop. So when people tuned in to listen, no one knew what the actual start song of the album was and what the end song of the album would be. So it was
Mm-hmm.
just playing on a loop, and I think that's also that also adds into like the themes of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's meant to be taken. The album's meant to be taken as like a cycle,
Yeah.
that things are cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting. Yeah, I find it fascinating. So I guess I'll ask you the same question. So then, why aren't Algorithm and Time named with the same convention?
he felt really clever for coming up with algorithm, and he was like, no, I'm not naming this a number.
I get that. Yeah, like
He's,
sometimes.
he's like, this is the crowning achievement of my career, coming up with this stupid pun, and I'll be damned if anyone takes it off my album.
Hmm.
It's a terrible song title. I'm just gonna say it. It's
Yeah,
so dumb. I
it's
hate it.
it's very on the nose.
I have so much hatred for Algorithm as a song. Like the album, like the other songs on this album, I don't like. I'm like, yeah. I like parts of it, but they're not great. Algorithm, get it out of here. I
Yeah,
don't like it. Get it out.
I get it. No, I also am just like, it sounds like it again. It would have worked as like if it was half the length, no vocals, and an intro piece. Like
Mm,
then it
I
would have
like the idea.
then it would have been like it would have really set the stage for what this record is trying to be, and like would have immediately gotten you into that like sort of again like techno punk, sort of grudgy industrial type vibe that would have been a good stage setter for this record. But like being a full song with those disgusting vocals right after that, like really surreal, calming, strangely soothing, but also like questioning, curious like intro. It just felt so weird and jarring, and I did not like it. It wasn't was not. And also, yeah, algorithm is a like we get it. It's technology, but it's also a song. Like it's one of those fake deep moments. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I'm curious. What do you think is like the I guess if you want to keep talking about like the conceptual ideas, how do you think that this album is gonna fit into the rest of his sort of catalog in terms of like do you think he's trying to continue a message here? Do you think he's trying to go for like a completely different message? What do you think he's trying to say with a record like this? It's okay if like you don't
Ooh.
have like a strong like literal like strong single idea, but like what are
No,
some
I have
key
ideas.
yeah, I mean what are some key themes you got out of this messages?
Well, I'm gonna go back to kind of like what you were asking with like the first question, which is
Hmm.
what's he trying to say with this?
Yeah.
Um, I think it's important to note Gambino has gone records before saying that he didn't say it specifically about this album, but he said for the past few years, whatever the next album I release as Childish Gambino is going to be my last record as Childish Gambino. He said he might continue making music, but as for the persona of Childish Gambino, he's gonna put that on ice after this album. So we kind of have to take this as sort of like this a finisher and like a cap on this
Hmm.
artist pretty much. I mean, he might go on to create different things, but the artist Childish Gambino, this is the end of his
His
career.
discography, yeah.
And I think he kind of tried to do a big swing within try and say he wanted to kind of put together the pieces of everything he's experimented with before in the past, from Awaken My Love, Because the Internet, Camp, Kwai, St. Mountain. He wanted to take all those, kind of put them together, and as sort of like a send off to everything he's been working with and experimenting with. And with that, he just kind of wanted to talk about time. And I think it's so, I mean, it's not often that you get an album from an artist where you that artist in the process of making it knows this is going to be my last album. This is going to be the end of this creative project. So I think he was trying to use that opportunity to say something bold about time and cycles, and
Hmm.
I think it also kind of demonstrates how he's grown as a person through this project. Um, yeah, I like that idea. I think Donald Glover is trying to say like, here's everything I learned through being Gambino, and this is the all that added up, and life will go on. It's going to be scary when, and I'm not going to be here anymore. But and I this goes together well with when he's talking to his kid at the end of 47. He's saying even though I might not still be here, like yeah, it's a very scary world, but there is still hope in it, and you'll be fine.
Hmm. I get that. Yeah, no, I also like find it sort of I guess disorienting, the message that he's going for
Mm.
me. I think it's like he's saying a few things, but a lot of them don't necessarily have to do with each other, right?
Yeah.
And
He's
so
definitely biting off way more than he can chew.
I agree. I think that's actually the best way to say it. It's very very ambitious. And I think you're right in what you said about, since this is going to be his last album in, going by the moniker of Childish Gambino, he tried to go with this big sort of grandiose thing that, like, was supposed to have a lasting impact. Um, and instead, what I think it ended up doing was being something that on a first listen is unintelligible, in my opinion. Right? Like I did
Mm.
not get anything out of this album the first time I went through it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and although generally albums are, like, you get more out of them in the second listen, right? This album, like, I at least like would could pick up on some key details or like some messages and themes on most albums the first time through, but like this one, I didn't get anything, and like I think it's cause it's a little unaccessible, especially if you haven't listened to previous Childish Gambino albums. Because before this, I'd only listened to Because of the Internet, and so I hadn't listened to Awaken My Love before I listened to this, and so it was hard for me to get, like, the psychedelic themes that he was carrying over from Awaken My Love. You know what I mean? It was hard for me
Mhm.
to get those, like, sort of R&B and soul references that he was making to this previous record. Um,
Did you end up listening to Wake My Love?
I did, and I enjoyed it a lot. I think that's his
It's my
best
favorite
album.
album from him.
Yeah,
It's so
I
good.
agree. I think that's his best album by far, and I think it's because
Definitely.
I think it's because he does well in that album what he doesn't do in this. I think he nails his sound in that album. Right, he knows what he does best, and he
Hmm.
tries to innovate on that and do that in a creative way. Right, like
Yeah.
I think his music is very feeling and, like, very emotional and moving in that record, and here it just feels a little lifeless. You know what I mean?
I get the sense, like, he's musically overall he's extremely talented,
Oh, for sure.
but I feel like he really wants to be a rapper,
Mm-hmm.
and rapping isn't necessarily where his strong suit
Yeah.
is. I think his strength is really in, like, I mean, he found it in Awaken My Love. It's sort melodies and
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
just the sound and
Mm-hmm.
soul and R&B.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Being
Mm-hmm.
like this soul R&B vibe is like definitely what I think Gambino does best in. And I was just I think that this, honestly, I guess what I would say about this record is that I feel like it was a lost opportunity. Right. I
Yeah.
feel like this was a great chance for him to grow, right? And, like, show, give us one final, like, huge sort of send off, like, with a very beautifully melodic, emotional album that could still cover similar themes, right? And, like, I wouldn't mind having had some technologically influenced beats in there, and, maybe some more instrumentally focused songs. But, like, I mean, we saw in this record with 35, like, how interesting a song with very little technological aspects to it ended up being, and how simple placement of it in relation to other music was able to bring out such an interesting message from it.
Hmm.
So I think, and evidently from his past records, we also know that he is an intelligent enough and, music theoretically talented enough person to understand how to do how to properly, like, place songs and, like, um you know sort them in a way that really brings their message out. I mean, like, even with Because the Internet, we saw, like, the songs numbered in a way and, like, put into these different sections um in a way that they were all cohesive parts within themselves, and then but then we're all able to work with each other as well, and, like, that takes um a lot of precision to play songs and to have them work like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. All right.
So
You
go
want to
ahead.
start wrapping this up?
Yeah, so I guess we can I guess I'll ask you, what would you say are like your final thoughts and like what they? I mean, obviously you don't have to give it a number, but like what's your loose rating on this? Like what's like your how do you feel about this record?
Final thoughts. It's very ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some really good there are some good songs in here and really good elements,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he wanted he knew this was going to be his last album, and rather than kind of refine his music, he wanted to do a lot with his final record. And it turned out to be, and with trying to do a lot, it was a bit of a swing and a miss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I wish he'd do another album so he can kind of refine this more
Mm-hmm.
and make what this album was going to be, but I don't think we're going to get that, which is a bit disappointing. As a rating, I don't know. I don't do a lot of ratings of albums,
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of hard. Uh
How would you compare it to like hey like say because of the internet like better or worse?
Slightly worse.
Okay, I can see that.
Um, I don't know. I'd say maybe I'd give 31520 a 6,
Mm-hmm.
probably closer to a 5 than a 7,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna say a 6 for now because I
Mm-hmm.
do think the good elements in it outweigh the bad elements, and because it's so ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, I guess because also, uh, because why not? I'll rank his studio albums,
Mm-hmm.
and you can too with what you know of them.
Yeah.
So he for studio albums he made Camp, Because the Internet, Awaken My Love, and 31520. And
Mm-hmm.
my rankings would have to be from worst to best: Camp, 31520, Because the Internet, and then Awaken My Love.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think I generally agree with you that I appreciate the ambitiousness that this was doing and like I appreciate him wanting to constantly switch it up, right? Like we've seen this with all of his records. Like he is the kind of person who like always wants to do something new and innovative. Like this is like a constant thing we've talked about this whole time and like so I appreciate that. Um I just feel like it like at times it even felt like a little bit rushed to me. Like this definitely did not take. It doesn't sound like it took 4 years or 3 or 4 years to make. You know, so
Hmm.
I feel like it was just. I agree. It was definitely a swing and a miss, but like I also do agree that like there were some parts I really liked about it, and this had a ton of potential, which is the
Hmm.
important part. And so I would probably give it pretty close to what you said. I'd probably give it like a pretty strong 5. I don't think it necessarily leans one way to the other in my opinion. I think it's like straight average. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and um, I guess I should say contextually that's compared to his other records a lot, right? It's like I expect more from Gambino than I would do like Da Baby or Lil Baby or any of these other babies, right? Like, for them to put out a record like this would be like an 8, right? But like for Gambino and especially the style he goes for and what he's done in the past, I definitely expected more. Um and so yeah, I would definitely give this a 5, maybe a 6, depending on maybe if I get some more out of it in future listens. Because this is like really like my second time through it really. But um yeah, like I don't know. I'm not even very compelled to revisit this album compared to just listening to Awaken My Love again. So I think that overall, yeah, definitely 5 to 6. But I guess we can now sort of go into where do you want to see Donald Glover? I guess from here on out go with his music. Like, do you want him to revisit some of the themes? Do you want him to put out some more music? Like, do you think that? So what do you want from him in the future? Like, what do you think this means?
I think definitely in the future he'll maybe not under the name Childish Gambino.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not for a while. I do think he's bound to eventually come back to music
Yeah.
in some capacity. I don't think you can like make music for this song and then just be like, yeah, I'm never gonna do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there will come a time where he's going to be like, yeah, I want to play around with music again. But for Glover as a person, I I love his show Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I hope
I actually need to get around to watching that.
you need to watch it. It's so
Yeah.
good. Which season? It's been a while since season 2. Season 3 hopefully is going to come around. I think I've heard rumors about next year.
Mm-hmm.
Which will have been 3 years since season 2 premiered, which is quite a while. But yeah, I mean, there's not too much in the works for Glover. I get the feeling he kind of wants to focus on his family right now,
Mm-hmm. For sure.
and he totally has enough. He has enough money to be fine for a while,
Yeah.
not working on any projects. But
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's what he's focusing on, and I'm not sure what will come after that time, but I'm very interested. Whenever something has Glover's name attached to it, I'm very interested in it
Mm-hmm.
because I just think I think he's probably one of the most creative people just in the entertainment industry today.
For sure.
I give him a lot of credit for how not only is he this accomplished musician, but he's also an accomplished actor, writer, and
Producer.
director,
Yeah. Like.
producer. He does everything in the entertainment industry
Mm-hmm.
just because just because he's a creative person and he just constantly loves trying new things and experimenting. So I'm really excited to see anything new he makes.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Like, I don't really know what this means for him. I hope to see some more music. And in all seriousness, I loved This Is America a lot. I know like nowadays or like the critical reception on it was like meh it to good, right? But
Really? I
uh
thought people really loved that.
I mean, people liked it a lot, but like critics were like that. Like critics generally thought like it was good, very good, but like it wasn't like this like godsend of like a single that was gonna change the world. But I want him to. I would very much like him to sort of revisit some themes present in that and make sort of like a This Is America follow up, or like
Yeah.
or like even like an album sort of like reflecting on those themes and like if things have changed, if they have gotten better, what that means. Like I want to know, like, again, I agree with you, like Glover's a very interesting person, you know what I mean, very
Mhm.
creative and very intelligent, so like I'm curious to like see what he thinks about the world in its current state, and I think this album tried to do that. It tried to talk about some themes like that, especially with various songs in it. But I would like to see a return to form with a focused message, and hopefully something that, even if it's under a new name, can still maintain what made Childish Gambino's discography shine. Um, so that's definitely what I'd like to see from him in the future. But
Yeah.
I do agree with you. Like I think that there will probably be a decent amount of time before we get that. That but overall, I mean, I'm here for it. This record wasn't my favorite, but I definitely appreciate the ambition, and I think that he still has a ton of potential and can totally do some great things.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally.
But so I guess that's where we'll end off this episode today. But make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below if you guys want any things you guys would like us to talk about. We're open to any new theme, any new topics for discussion on the JSN podcast. Um, our next episode is going to be on Tiger King, the Netflix show. As I mentioned earlier, very very popular, crazy. People are all. It's a ton of news about it, and I watched the entire thing in one day, and all I can say is I'm very excited to talk about it. But I guess that'll be it for today, and we'll see you all later. Bye.
Bye bye.